everyone, welcome back for another video. So today I'm going to do my second trimester updates, and currently I am 29 weeks and 5 days pregnant with twins, so almost 30 weeks pregnant, and that's very exciting. I cannot believe that I'm already through the second trimester, but at the same time I can't believe that there's still like 2 months to go. That is insane. So today I'm just going to talk about a few of my symptoms in the second trimester, kind of how it went, some of the major like updates that happened, such as gestational diabetes test, and then at the end I'm going to talk about the gender of our babies. And if you follow me on Instagram, you might already know, but if you are watching this later at a later date or just haven't seen that, then I guess you'll find out what the gender of our babies is. And so yeah, right now I'm 29 weeks and 5 days pregnant, and so almost 30 weeks. And interestingly enough, I just read that at 30 weeks pregnant with twins, you are the same size as a full-term pregnant woman with a single baby. So I definitely feel that. I felt pretty good throughout my entire first pregnancy with one baby, and I didn't really have like too many huge physical issues. So the same is actually kind of being true with the twin pregnancy. I mean, after the first trimester and the nausea started to wear off, which for me luckily was around 12 weeks, I felt really lucky that it hasn't really come back at all. I mean, it still could in the third trimester, but it hasn't come back yet. But so far I haven't had really that many health issues. So the first thing I want to talk about is just feeling movement, Braxton Hicks, that type of thing. So it was about, let me check when, 17 weeks that I first started to feel them move. And that was pretty early for me. I think it was closer to 20 weeks with my first pregnancy. But I think it's normal to feel multiples move earlier, and it's also normal in your like subsequent pregnancies to feel them move earlier as well. And I also started getting Braxton Hicks much earlier. So I started getting Braxton Hicks contractions, practice contractions, at around 20 weeks, which I always kind of thought was like a third trimester thing, but it definitely wasn't for me. And it has just gotten progressively more intense, I guess, as the weeks go by. I now at almost 30 weeks, I really get them like almost every hour maybe, and it kind of depends on how I'm feeling. Like if I have to pee, I tend to have more of them, or if I bend over or I physically exert myself a bit, not too much, but if I just exert myself, then I tend to get one. And it's really not a problem. I've talked to my doctor about it. As long as your contractions are not increasing in frequency and getting closer together, that would be a sign of like preterm labor. But Braxton Hicks contractions can kind of just happen whenever, and those are actually some normal reasons, normal causes of why you would have them. So it is totally normal. I'm not worried about it, but it is interesting to have them so frequently. And the other milestone was at 24 weeks was when I first could see the babies move from the outside. And that was kind of crazy too, because I felt like that was really early. But yeah, and with that, I should just talk about positioning. So right now at 30 weeks, both babies are head down, which is really good because the only way that I can attempt a vaginal delivery is if both babies are head down in optimal position. So currently they are both head down, and they've been head down for probably 6 weeks or more. So we're just hoping that it stays that way. The next symptom that has kind of crept up on me this pregnancy, and I had it during my first pregnancy, but maybe I wanted to forget about it, and that is insomnia and restless legs while sleeping. And I had both of these symptoms in my first pregnancy. I didn't really find anything that helped me deal with it. So if you don't know, I mean, insomnia, I think people mostly know, like sometimes you just really can't sleep when you're pregnant. Like you just wake up in the middle of the night and you're just awake for like an hour or more. And that's really frustrating, especially when you have a toddler that wakes up at 6 a.m. and then you have to get up with them at 6 a.m. and you're tired. It's not the best situation. I think in my first pregnancy, I could just like not sleep well in the night and then I could catch up and take a nap during the day or just take it easy, but that's just not the case when you're already a mom. And the other thing is restless legs, which is sort of like a feeling in your legs if you've never had restless legs before. It's a sensation where you really just feel, at least for me, like you have to move them, or you have to get up, or you have to stretch, or you just feel like like it's just really hard to relax. And when you're trying to lay down and fall asleep and you feel like that, it's basically impossible to fall asleep. And so one of the things that I'm actually doing this pregnancy that's been helping a lot with that is taking a magnesium supplement. So this is something that I got approved by my doctor, and it also has kind of anecdotal evidence online. If you look up restless legs and pregnancy on like what you can do, taking a magnesium supplement is one of the options. And I think also an iron supplement can sometimes help. And since I've been starting taking that supplement, I have noticed a huge improvement in my nighttime sleep. So for me, I just take the supplement like, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour before I go to bed. And I have not had even like, it has severely decreased the intensity of the restless legs if I get it at all. So that has really been helping me sleep. So if you're experiencing the same thing, maybe give magnesium supplement a try and it might work for you. And the other thing I've noticed in the middle of the night especially is that I just get hungry. And I think it's maybe because I eat dinner quite early with my son, usually around 6 o'clock or 6:30. So it's pretty early. And then I go to bed, around 10 or 10:30. And usually around midnight, 1 a.m., I wake up. And if I'm not, I'm usually waking up to pee or something. And then once I'm awake, I realize, okay, I'm hungry. And so I do tend to have a snack in the middle of the night. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I try to keep it healthy. It's not always healthy, but have like apple and peanut butter or banana or a muffin or something like that, just in the middle of the night. And that actually does tend to help me fall back asleep, because it's always at that like midnight to 1 a.m. wake up that I really struggle going back to sleep. Like I could be up for like another hour or 2 hours if I wake up at that time. But if I eat a little bit of something, and it tends to just calm everything down and I feel like, I don't know, more comfortable, I guess, to go back to sleep. So if you're pregnant, don't feel bad about eating in the middle of the night. It will probably be the same when you're breastfeeding in the middle of the night. At least it was for me with my first son. So this will continue for like the next, 6 to 8 months probably. And the next symptom, and I'm just looking at my notes here, the next thing that I really noticed in the second trimester was my hormonal acne really cleared up. Thank goodness, because I was getting really annoyed with dealing with it. For me, I noticed around 22 weeks, which is actually about the same as with my first pregnancy, is when everything really kind of cleared. And now I'm really not struggling with any acne. I still have some scarring. I mean, I'm wearing makeup right now, but my skin texture is much better. I'm not really getting as many blackheads as I was before. If you want to see what my hormonal acne looked like before now, and before I got pregnant and during the first trimester, I posted some really lovely pictures of it in my first trimester update, which I'll link down below if you want to check that out. If you're struggling with hormonal acne, man, I feel for you, because it just sucks. Like there's nothing that you can really do about it, especially when you're pregnant. You can't take any medications or anything. And products, no matter how much they claim to help your acne, products do not really help hormonal acne. So, and again, I talked about this in my first trimester update if you want to go back to that, but yeah, I really feel for you. It's annoying, but hopefully it will clear up soon if you're still struggling with it. The next thing that happened during this trimester is my gestational diabetes test. So at 23 weeks is when I took my gestational diabetes test, and the initial one I ended up not passing. I would say failing, but I didn't pass it. The nurses told me that it was just by a slight amount that I didn't pass it, whatever the levels are. I don't remember, but I had to go back in to do a retest, which is the 2-hour test, and you're not allowed to eat for like 12 hours beforehand. And then you have to go and get your blood drawn 3 times over the course of those 2 hours. And they, of course, you drink the drink and then they draw your blood and they check how well your body processes sugar. And thank goodness, again, I passed, because I did not want to deal with gestational diabetes. But you do have a higher risk of having gestational diabetes with a multiple pregnancy. So I was prepared that I could possibly fail it, but luckily I didn't. So that was really good. And that is the only test that I have done during this pregnancy so far. I think there will be some other tests in the 3rd trimester, so I will, update you guys later on in another update. But the only other major thing that happened this trimester is I started to really feel, at some points, I mean, overall it's been good, but at some points I had some pretty intense pains. And around 25 weeks is when I started to feel some back pains, and it started to migrate kind of to my pelvis and to my sit bones. And I'm not sure if it was just my pelvis like expanding, which is totally normal, but it lasted for about a week and a half, and it really, at the worst part of it, I like really could not walk. Like, it hurt so bad to walk, and I had never experienced that in my first pregnancy. I mean, I had sciatica for a short time in my first pregnancy, but this was different, and I almost called my doctor over it, but it did start to get better. So I think it was just my pelvis opening, and then my body was able to readjust, thankfully. But I'm really hoping I don't have something like that again. I mean, there's still a high chance, but it was really tough to go through, especially when you have to take your toddler to school, you have to go out and get groceries and stuff. Like, you really cannot be incapacitated as a pregnant person, and so many people are, especially with multiple pregnancies. So if you're pregnant and you're on bed rest, or you're having some pretty severe physical pains, especially in your back or pelvis or something, I can really feel for you. I really relate, because it was just horrible. Even for that short time that I had to deal with it, it was horrible. So if you are pregnant with twins, that is, I think, a possibility, or just pregnant in general. But at the same time, especially if you're newly pregnant, like, don't think that your whole pregnancy is going to be like that. I know I watched quite a few videos of people who were pregnant with twins, and they were like on bed rest from 18 weeks and stuff. And man, I can't even imagine that. I don't think I would have survived. But just know that it's not always the case. So, just stay hopeful. Don't like freak out thinking that that's going to be you necessarily. It might be, but it might not be. So just keep that in mind. And kind of going along with that, like how I'm staying active, how I'm preparing for birth. I will admit I'm definitely not as diligent and not as active as I was in my first pregnancy. In my first pregnancy, I was really like kept up with my workouts. I was doing like the Nike Training Club app, probably like 3 times a week. I mean, I'll link a post below that talked about what I did with my first pregnancy. But again, that was just a result of me being on maternity leave, me being home, having a lot of time. And so it was kind of easy to keep up with that. But this time around, I have another child to take care of. He only goes to school like 3 days a week, so I don't have so much time on my own that I can really spend working out. And I don't know if you know this, but in Japan, you actually cannot really go to the gym if you are pregnant. So they will not let you really do swimming. You cannot go to the gym and go on the elliptical. Like, they really believe that pregnant women should just kind of like stay at home and rest, basically. So it's a lot different than the US. But luckily there are some prenatal classes that I can attend, and one of those is Pilates. I do Pilates at a Pilates studio here in Tokyo, and I did this with my first pregnancy as well, and it just really helps with maintaining your strength. And I've also been doing yoga at home as well. And now that I feel a little bit better, I'm not as nauseous as I was in the first trimester. It's easier to keep that up. But I would say that I'm still only doing that like 2 or 3 times a week probably, along with all the walking that is involved with having a toddler, going to parks, taking them to school. You know, I probably get in at least 10,000 steps a day, so I feel good about that. But I definitely want to be more diligent with the yoga and maintaining my strength during this last trimester, because I really just want to be physically prepared for birth. Whether or not I have vaginal delivery or a C-section, that is yet to be decided. But regardless, I think it's really important to have your body be physically prepared to give birth and also to recover from birth. And the more you can do in your pregnancy to kind of maintain your strength, the easier both of those processes will be. So if you're pregnant, I would definitely recommend, if you are feeling physically capable, to make it a priority to try to stay as active as you can. It's not recommended to start anything new that you weren't doing before you got pregnant, but you should maybe try to maintain as much as you can what you were doing before you got pregnant. The other thing that I've been doing to prepare is I did take a breathing class with my doula from my last pregnancy, so that was a good reminder of the kind of ways that you can breathe during labor. And I really was getting flashbacks from my first delivery doing that class, but it was incredibly useful, so I'm really glad that I did that. Okay, and I think that's about it for my symptoms. As far as birth plans go, it's still really kind of up in the air. Both babies are head down, and we're just hoping that it stays that way, because that's the only way I can attempt vaginal delivery, like I already mentioned. So we are hopeful for that, but I'm also prepared that I still have a high chance of a C-section. So I'm trying to do some research into how to prepare for a C-section, maybe what I can do to make the recovery easier if that is my situation, how I can make sure breastfeeding will go well even if I have a C-section. So if you have any tips about recovering from a C-section or breastfeeding with a C-section, please leave them down below, because I need all the tips. I want to know everything. I'm that type of person that wants to really be prepared and know everything. So please leave a comment down below about that. And last but not least, if you don't know, I will now reveal the genders of the babies. So around at 23 weeks, we finally were able to find out the genders, and we honestly considered not finding out, but at the same time could not think of any boy names. So we wanted to be prepared if we had to think of 2 boy names, basically. And anyway, finally at 23 weeks, after not really being able to see the gender at our past appointments, we were able to see quite clearly that we are having 1 boy and 1 girl. So it will be boy-girl twins. So they are for sure fraternal, and again, they have their own placentas, so everything is actually looking really, really great as far as their health. They're growing well. They are the same size as a singleton baby right now at almost 30 weeks, which is pretty incredible, and probably the reason that I am so large. So with that, I will just show you my almost 30-week bump, I guess, if you care about that. And I think that will be it for this video. So let me see if I can show you. So this is my almost 30-week bump. And again, it's about the same size as a single pregnancy at 37 weeks. So it's quite big, and that's like from the front. And yeah, I'm a bit worried how big it's going to be at the very end, but we'll see how it goes. So anyway, I think that's about it for this video. If you have any questions for me, or if you have any tips about C-section recoveries, breastfeeding with a C-section, please leave them down below. And of course, all my information for Instagram and my blog will be linked down below as well. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one, which will most likely be just a 3rd trimester update, hopefully before the babies are born. All right, see you later. Bye.